All right, good morning. It's Sunday, the 7th of December, and this is my outlook for the week ahead. Okay, this might end up being a longer stream just to give you that preface today. So, this week, obviously, we have FOMC on. Did we have FOMC this week? This is not the right week. We have FOMC on Wednesday. So, rates decision, the expectations are 25 bips cuts. I never really like trading around this event, so I think it's probably a bit of a nothing burger in any case. As we come into this week, over the past 3 weeks, we've built out value between 86k and 93k, being capped at our old winter consolidation. Let's just zoom out here. It'll be easier to see. So this consolidation from November through February, 14 weeks of overlapping value, is capping upside for now. 93k resistance, and we're currently finding support around, anywhere between 80 and 86k essentially. But this level being this previous 8-week composite low cap downside. So for the time being, we're range bound between these two extremes of value, being 93.7-ish and 86.7-ish. So I think near term you can continue to look to play these extremes. Now the question is, do we end up coming and taking this low? I think there's a very good probability that we do at some point, but whether that doesn't have to happen immediately by any means. So expecting more chop essentially over the next week or so, and probably for this thin area to get filled out, which probably means spending quite a bit of time in the sort of lower extremity of this range, which would then look like compression below this point of control, and probably point towards a breakdown. And it's actually very reminiscent in that situation of what happened back in March and April. So if we zoom back over here, we had oscillations around value, and then we had this kind of period of consolidation below the point of control before we broke down and ended up taking out the lows, then obviously a bit of a double bottom before we started to trade up again. So I'm wondering if we get a very similar situation to that, where this low does eventually get taken out, but perhaps we see this profile get filled out and this void starts to become more of a normally distributed profile over the next few days or so. So as far as BTC is concerned now, what can we do? Well, if you're not in a position here, I don't think there's much to do. Very plausible we get another bounce off this kind of area, this value low. Perhaps we trade back up to the POC or something like that. And then ultimately we have to see whether we end up taking out this low and then reclaiming this range, in which case I think that's a very good long setup, potentially play back up towards the 14-week composite high here, which lines up with this point of control from this consolidation in early November. I still think that is likely to come and get tested at some point, that we probably deviate the 365-day VWAP and yearly VWAP, So broadly speaking, I still think this is a bottoming process, but it's probably going to take more time. So for now, those are the sort of trades I would look to take. Potentially fade the extreme of value here, potentially another short around the POC, assuming we can't reclaim it, and then a swing trade, perhaps if we sweep this low, is what I'm thinking at the moment. Obviously, if we can reclaim the 14-week at 93.7, then I would say the bottom is in, and we're probably going to trade up towards this area and traverse that value. So broadly speaking, those are the plans. Along there, possibly a short there, possibly a long down here. If we can reclaim the 14-week, we traverse the 14 weeks of value, I would assume. That's it for Bitcoin. Not much else to say on it for now. I think you're starting to see the trend weaken. We've obviously seen the 7 days flattened out. The 30 days starting to flatten out now as well. So as these VWAPs flatten, we're moving into more of a range bound environment, and the trend is kind of lost its strength. Okay, I think don't think there's much else to say. We'll just have a quick look at VWAP. I don't think there's much additional to say on this. So obviously multiple weeks of overlapping value here. So 1, 2, and then the third week of overlapping value. So we can use that for our TPO to get those extremities. Monthly is overlapping as well. So, we obviously came and tested previous month's VWAP more or less last week. I think we just about front ran it, but more or less to the tick. In fact, tagged that level. So obviously December's value is currently overlapping with November's, and the question is, do we stay wedged below November's VWAP, or do we actually build out this range between November's value high and November's value low, which is what I'm thinking. So it just depends, what happens if and when we come and take out this low. For now, the quarterly, we're still unable to hold within it, which points to more downside, and we just don't want to see acceptance below previous year's value high. So provided we can hold 80k as support, then we can trade back up towards yearly VWAP. But if we lose this definitively, then we're in quite a lot of trouble, probably going towards previous year's VWAP at least, and potentially previous year's val ultimately. But for now, while we're trading at this 80 to 82k area, I wouldn't, I'm bullish against this level essentially. So we'll see how it develops. That's it for BTC. Let's just take a quick look at indices before we move on. I sort of meant to do them first, but I'm not going to go back now. So if we look at NASDAQ, okay, so it's range bound in my opinion. The weeklies obviously developed quite bullish as we came into this area and these lows, reclaiming value and established a good uptrend on the weekly. Still trading above, closed the week above the developing week's value high. The monthly, we're printing overlapping value. So, October's value, November's value, and now December's value currently all overlapping, which points to more of a range bound environment. VWAP is very flat. It's looking quite neutral. Quarterly in particular is very neutral. So my hunch is that NASDAQ is moving into more of a range bound environment and perhaps printing more of a distributive top, as I suggested on X a while ago. So if we just zoom out and look at what's happened in terms of the bigger picture since the April lows, I mean, really you can see that this is rounded out. Then we got the gap up and the blow off and a sell off. And I think what we're doing here is likely moving into a range bound environment and probably printing some kind of distributive top. So we've got this imbalance here on the daily, which we swept into. Is that high going to hold into next week? And are we going to trade back down through, this sort of range and this area of developing value towards, say, 24.5? I think that's quite a plausible one. And it also kind of marries up to what we saw with BTC in April, where, it obviously sold off first, and then we saw weakness from equities, BTC kind of holding up before it eventually came and swept the lows. And I think that kind of relationship between indices and Bitcoin is quite likely to repeat. Not that I think Bitcoin is necessarily a macro bottom, but a medium time frame to high time frame bottom, sure. So I personally, looking at this, wouldn't want to be long. It was obviously a great long down here, but I think this is a good area to take profit, and then see if we can re-accept within this region of overlapping value. So if I come to NQ, I mean, I don't know if any of you guys trade equities. I'm thinking about moving back and trading more equities because of the more consistent returns. But if I look at it on, this is fine. TPO is not going to make any difference anyway. So what are we doing? If I look at it on a month. Okay, so we've got October and November overlapping. Quite a good normal distribution here, so we can merge these profiles. And this is the area to hold, right? If we lose that 25.4, then we're going back to these range lows most likely. So quite a good level to work with going forward into this week. Even if you didn't want to short it up here, you can let it break down and then potentially give you an underside retest of this kind of area. It gives you a decent swing setup, potentially to play this value area. And it's arranged until proven otherwise, so I wouldn't necessarily assume it's going to break down for the time being. But yeah, you can clearly see we're building out this nice normal distribution here. So got this kind of LVN as well. But really, I think it's a sensible area to be looking for shorts coming into this area of supply, having taken out these highs. Looks like a good spot to be looking to fade, even if it doesn't play out. Shorting indices is always a bit of a, well, it can be done. I mean, but yeah, acceptance back in that range, retest the value high, play to the value low would be the sort of high time frame setup for Nasdaq coming into this week. That could take some time to play out. So let's move on to look at some other stuff. ETH, why not? So I saw people on the timeline, very bullish ETH BTC this week. I'm not really convinced. So let's just clean this up. Bit of a mess. So look, ETH BTC has been trading at this area of support. So it traded into this area of demand, and it's kind of, to me, it's looked like it's printed a bull flag, but we've spent so much time here, and it's quite clear to me that this is just consolidation, probably at support, and that we're just building out a range. So ETH BTC at range highs, do you really want to be bullish at this level? Yes, it's trading above value, but range highs, if it breaks out, then sure. But to me, this is a range, and having failed above these highs, we should expect it potentially to trade back towards the lows. So I'm personally not very bullish at ETH at this level. I think maybe Tom Lee is sort of single-handedly propping up this market versus Bitcoin, but that's not necessarily a good thing because he hasn't been able to force a breakout in spite of all the buying that he's been doing. So for me, clear range, and expecting it to trade at least back to fill out this imbalance and potentially lower. So I took the ETH short on Friday in favor of Bitcoin. I mean, in some part because it was a bit late to Bitcoin and it was just trading at a better level, but also because I do believe that this is a range and it's likely to trade lower. So let's come and look at ETHUSD. Pretty similar picture to Bitcoin, in that we have 3 weeks of overlapping value. So let's just grab those levels and just make sure that this is up to date because it may have moved. Just want to work with the TPO levels as well as the volume. So, values, it's trying to shift up, but I think it's fine to merge this week with the previous two. That gives us a value high, up here. Sorry, that's the 3. I'm just going to get rid of that because it's starting to get a bit messy and it kind of overlaps. So there's our 3-week composite. Obviously it's going to move a little bit before the weekly close, but not materially. So Friday, let's just grab this as well. So Thursday, we retested this 4-day composite, which capped upside, and then sold into these rolling VWAPs. It got the underside retested previous month. So this is where I took the short on Friday. So you came into the point of control. It could take some off coming into the weekend, but left behind a nice selling imbalance here. We're trading below previous year's VWAP and now below yearly VWAP as well. And obviously having failed at the composite highs, the expectation should be another move towards the composite lows. So I'm looking towards at least 2850-ish from ETH. And then, again, it's like a question of whether this low gets swept. Do we come and tag previous year's val, which we just about front ran? I know it's a higher time frame level, so definitely less precise, but do we do something similar to Bitcoin ultimately where we break down and take out the lows, and this ends up being a sort of higher time frame low? I think that's quite plausible. But for now, again, we're just looking to trade around the edges of value, and I think it makes sense to be trimming any mean reversion longs around this point of control over this week. So, fill out the gap, get a good reaction around the value lows. Can we trade it back up to POC? That's really all I'm thinking about at the moment. Obviously I'm in the short for now, but looking to take profit down here. So just trading the range until it breaks. Once it breaks, I don't think you want to be bearish below value here. It's plausible that it's a multi-week breakdown if we come into this area, but I think I would err on the bullish side, just given the location that Bitcoin is at and the broader context in terms of quite an inefficient, I say inefficient. I think we have it inefficiencies to come and fill out higher up. So I do lean towards a bounce from somewhere around the 80k area towards 100. And then, you know, potentially we ended up building out multiple months of value between, you know, 80 and 100k. For now, it's just multiple weeks, but I think that opportunity still exists as we trade within November's value. Okay, Solana next. Looking pretty cooked, so I took longs here and here, round tripped a bit. Wasn't really anticipating it to just die here, which was my mistake, but we also traded into this high volume imbalance. Nice tag of that level, pretty easy short in hindsight. Trading back into value, retesting the underside, and now again, you know, just building out this range. The thing that's, I guess, a bit more concerning for Sol is that it is trading at this 125 level, which has been hammered to death. But obviously, if BTC is going to bottom in this area and rally, then Sol's going to follow and probably outperform it, to be honest, in the short term at least. So again, you know, we've got this high time frame context draw level, previous year's value low, similar to ETH, in fact, similar to BTC as well, around 115k. So can we tag that and then reclaim? I think that would be a good bottom to trade, potentially up towards this point of breakdown, previous year's VWAP, over the coming weeks. But yeah, for now, just building out a range as well. So it's not rocket science. I think having traded through this comp now so many times, I would probably just remove it and look to work with the multi-week that we're obviously printing here. So let's just mark that out. While I'm here, it'll save me a job next week as well. TPO. So we could include that half and then, yeah, these 3 weeks essentially. So I'm going to split this here. Did that do what I wanted it to do? No, it didn't. Perhaps I'll just do this later. I'm never quite sure. No, that's not what I wanted to do at all. Probably be easier if I had the letters on, then I'd be able to see what I'm looking at, but perhaps I'll just do this on my own. Is it even going to show me letters? No. All right, never mind. I'll do that myself, but essentially, we've got 3.5 weeks of value. So if I just take this from here, say, yeah, that's fine. So, you know, jogging around this value low, looks like consolidation at support. So expecting this to break lower, you know, maybe this low holds again, but I think you really want to see previous year's val hold as support if it's going to have any chance of trading up. But obviously it's going to follow BTC for the most part, even if it does look a slightly weaker. Okay, other stuff. I've got a ZEC short running, so we came and filled out this gap, or at least tested again this big high volume imbalance. I attempted a short here early in the week, topping out at the point of control of this range, traded into value low, so I took some off yesterday, but really expecting this to break down towards yearly VWAP and to come and test this composite as well. So this is my target around 270 to 290. So yeah, good bounce, but obviously still in a strong downtrend. Expected to continue to trade lower, and then perhaps range between these composites and build out this void a bit. But yeah, for now, my expectation is around 275, and then you could potentially play along back up towards the 330 area, but we'll see. Hype, yeah. I mean, look, this, I don't understand how people can look at this chart and be bullish or have been able to, because all it's done really. This is a long period of consolidation. We broke down from it, and then we came and retested. I've just been in a downtrend. So this is all just distribution to me. It did offer a good short this week up here. So, a few days of balance, came and retested, failed above the highs. So anywhere here was a good short. Unfortunately, I missed that. I guess it came overnight for me anyway. Maybe not. When did it come? Yeah, 3 a.m. So I can forgive myself for missing that one. I'm a bit of a shame. Could have taken it here on this underside retest of the POC. Or even, could take it anywhere really. But yeah, the opportunity is obviously massively diminished. So what to expect with hype now? I mean, pending any bounces, I think the meaningful support is kind of around the low 20s, yearly val. We could see a bounce off this kind of area, or even the PSC, and then some more chop. But yeah, really, I think meaningful support is going to be around 20, and ultimately, I think it probably trades into this consolidation on a higher time frame basis, and this is where I would actually be interested in picking up a bag for the longer term. So below 1750, I'm a spot buyer probably. I think we can bounce here and potentially get a decent bounce, but I still think we're likely to trade into this area of demand. Gut feel, but it's just what I think. I don't think we're anywhere near the end of this bear market, so we've got plenty of time. No rush to deploy into these coins. But yeah, now, if by some miracle you get some kind of underside retest up here, then pretty easy short, but I wouldn't necessarily expect that to happen. So yeah, low 20s is a good target to the downside. Potentially look to play short-term mean reversion, but really looking to buy in this kind of area below 1750. Asta's kind of following suit and breaking down now as well. It was a good long last week, off this kind of area into the POC, and then there was an opportunity to long it again near term, but unable to reclaim that point of control. It was, in hindsight, a good short, although not an easy thing to short. I mean, obviously we tested it once, twice, 3 times, and this has been very choppy, and only really got the impulsive move on this breakdown below value today. So not not particularly easy short to sit in, although the highs were never re-challenged. I mean, it looks pretty shit, doesn't it? It's breaking down. We had this big deviation above value, return into it, trade through, failing at the POC. Probably going to go towards this low at least. Doesn't look particularly great. So not even CZ can save this one at the moment. Syrup's good long, or has been a couple of days at least. Maybe it can come and trade up at this imbalance. I've taken a couple of trades on it, but nothing to write home about. And then let's just look at BCH quickly, because I think it's a nice setup. Sorry, I marked this chart up for something like a madman. Okay, so let's just zoom out. So obviously, April lows, pretty much one of the steadiest trends in the market. So just really went up in, not a straight line, but a very choppy uptrend until September. Formed this consolidation, and this is where I think we started to form this distributive kind of range. See, recently traded back up into it, failed at the composite highs, displacement below, and then this test of the POC is where I'm thinking it's probably going to break down from, particularly given the positioning confidence we have up here. So spot kind of being quite manipulative, I would say, coming in here, perhaps filling in some asks, open interest getting quite extended as we come into this area of supply. So the book's heavily skewed towards the offer on both the perps and the spot side. After this sort of temporary uptick on the spot side, which, as I say, I assume is people trying to fill shorts. So yeah, with open interest extended like that in this area, the offer pretty heavily stacked against bulls. I think, I'm just looking for shorts, and that is a good setup. We're at previous quarter's value high, failed at the composite, broke down, retested the POC. So is that the lower high now before we start to break lower? And if so, can we see us trade all the way back towards this sort of macro multi-year range lows around the 250 area? It's kind of what I'm thinking, at least. So we'll see how that one goes, but for now it's a good setup. So if we can break below this 10-day point of control, then I'll be looking to add. So 545-ish. This range point of control, if we can continue to break down here, perhaps give it a little underside retest, a cheeky one, and then acceptance of this value, I'd look to compound at that POC probably. I think at that point, its fate is sealed. So yeah, I'd be looking to trade that much lower. Hold this for a few weeks at least. So I'll probably leave it there for now. Don't think I have much else I want to look at. Filecoin just failed at that 90-day VWAP. Probably a pretty good short there, but I was asleep. And yeah, that's it. Alts, some scam moves. They managed to pump Pip in from, I want to say 2 million to 350 million, which is quite something. I think I was buying it somewhere back here. Anyway, yeah, otherwise, yeah, it's just a scam pump, isn't it? But quite an impressive one. I'll leave it there for now, guys, and catch you next time. Cheers.